Good afternoon, General Carvalho, Colonel Sergeant, Command Sergeant Major Jeffers, and fellow medical commanders. I'm Captain Joseph Mangiameli from the 110th Medical Battalion. I'm the Force Health Protection Commander of our battalion and a nurse. And I'm here to present a summary of efforts in detainee nursing case management. I appreciate you taking the time to hear me today at this Theater Medical Command Summit. I'm also going to be working the slides too, so bear with me. Here's my references. You can see I've done a bit of extensive research into not only mortality and morbidity of chronic illnesses within Iraq and Afghanistan, but of their effects and nursing case management within the states. My mission statement. The mission statement is to introduce a standards-based model of healthcare management to provide medical accountability, education, and continuity of care within the theater internment facilities. I'm not sure if you can read that, so I'm going to read it for you. In a population that rarely, if never, had seen healthcare prior to internment by coalition forces, there's an overwhelming need for chronic illness management. At our current pace, we release an average of 18 detainees per day after an approximate incarceration of 350 to 380 days. Under the current model of care, these detainees are released with a 2-week supply of medication that they had not started prior to internment. The vast majority of them, following this 2 weeks, will not have the means, whether financial or just their geographic location, to obtain these medications after their release. There are many ill effects to that. For example, there's a high incidence of hypertension amongst males 28 to 52, if I'm not mistaken, within the Iraqi population itself. Most of them have never started, are not on a high blood pressure medication, but for example, they come into internment in one of our facilities and they are started on, for example, one of our staples is lisinopril, so we start them on an ACE inhibitor. We detain them for 380 days until we can prove their innocence or we feel they're rehabilitated and release them. We release them with 2 weeks of medication. Well, the question is, what happens after that medication runs out? They're going to get rebound hypertension, for example, and much worse than they had it prior to coming into internment for us. Now, the Geneva Convention says we will treat their medical conditions exactly as if we would treat soldiers who came under the same medical care. Our proposal is to introduce a nursing case management program that will have direct oversight on approximately 75 to 100 chronically ill patients within a theater internment facility. The nurse case manager will provide direct education through interpreters to these populations. The liaison with providers within the theater internment facilities and civilian physicians, for example, Iraqi physicians. If I have somebody from the province of Taji, and that is, let's say I'm a nurse case manager and I have somebody from the province of Taji that we're looking to release on the nursing case management, it'd be my responsibility as a nurse case manager to reach out to the Ministry of Health and then make contact with medical facilities within that area. Now, the second phase of this project that I'm not going to present on, that the 110th is working on, would be to provide these clinics to stock them with medical supplies and medications, much like we do Iraqi hospitals. Next slide. There are some problem statements. Detainee records. Now, on a staff assistant visit to Buka and Cropper, which are the two largest theater internment facilities in the theater and here in Iraq, we noticed there were several problems that we encountered that we needed to address. One of them, the detainee records and their medical records, along with their medications, are frequently lost and or delayed due to frequent transfers and movements by MPs, and those movements are necessary to keep the Sunnis and the Shiites separated and just overall provide a general overwhelming sense of peace amongst the detainees. I think we all know that. Healthcare education to the detainees is a second issue. A lot of their issues aren't necessarily need to be resolved with medication, but they could be resolved with healthcare education. But very rarely is that offered to detainees. And lastly, providers are unable to review a comprehensive treatment record for the detainee. So we have no longitudinal care record of care for these detainees. We only know what may have happened prior to them coming to the visit this day in the clinic within the compound. So, in addition to the above listed problems, though, I'd like to also point out that our team also identified issues with the continuity of chronic ailment medical care. This most often occurred in population experiencing, for example, hypertension, we talked about that earlier, and diabetic symptoms. These are very risky patient profiles regardless of external systemic problems that may exist. Transferring somebody who has let's for example, foot ulcer, transferring that to the hospital without the education to help them care for that wound themselves or allow their family to care for those wounds, you're looking at possible infections, and we may have done more bad than we have done good for this person. I'd like to define the nurse case management, what the Case Management Society of America calls a nurse case manager. And what they say is that according to the American Nurses Association, the ANA, nursing case management is a dynamic and systematic, collaborative approach to provide and coordinate healthcare services to a defined patient. And that comes from White and Hall, 2006. Our nurse case managers will be responsible for actively participating with the detainees to identify and facilitate options of medical services for meeting the detainees' individual needs with the goal of decreasing fragmentation and duplication of care and enhancing quality and clinical outcomes. Now, if you look at the Nursing Case Management Society of America talks about the continuum of healthcare for a patient. We would look at our detainees the same way. We can view the detainees' time within the theater and term facilities and beyond as our continuum. And this continuum is a true opportunity to win hearts and minds, as we've been directed by General Petraeus when he was in command. We believe this is a task that nursing case management can help with. Nursing case management was created in the United States to address many of the same issues that have been identified in the detainee population. Based upon nurses' training and their experience, based on their experience, they are inherently equipped to take on this mission. I've listed 3 of the primary goals for nursing case management within our detention facilities. 1, nurses can help to provide medical accountability for detainee transfers and movements. 2, throughout the continuum, nurse case managers can help extend the continuity of care from the moment that the detainee is interned to the time of their release, and actually after, because hopefully we'll be able to liaison with the Ministry of Health. We're in the middle of talking with them right now, but I have high hopes that this can work. Finally, nurses can offer one-on-one self-help. When I say one-on-one, obviously interpreters will be involved, but we'd be speaking directly to the detainee through the interpreter. And this medical education would be very beneficial to the detainees. So the biggest question, is there a need for nursing case management? According to the World Diabetes Foundation, the current population of Iraq is estimated to be approximately 31,234,000, and 7.7% of that population suffers from type 2 diabetes. Through a study conducted by Duke University Medical Center back in 2006, the same population, 9% of them experience are believed to have some kind of cardiovascular disease, with an average age of this population estimated to die by age 39. I can't think of a better population that could benefit from this. Now, so who are the detainees? It's a 25 to 52-year-old male with no tie to a terrorist organization. We find that most detainees are actually a farmer or a sheep herder, and males within this age group. And less than 3% of the 26,000 detainees in Iraq are terrorist affiliated, to include Al-Qaeda, Takfiri, and JAM. Lieutenant Colonel Douglas Rustin, S2 for Multinational Forces Iraq, released in a report last year that he related that the average detainee is a farmer or goat herder that was paid 100 dinar, the current Iraqi currency, to plant roadside bombs. So basically you got a farmer who's suffering So his farm's not working. He can't feed his family. Along comes an Al-Qaeda representative. He offers him $100 to plant this bomb. And he's got to take it. He's got to feed his family. We catch him fumbling with it. He doesn't know what he's doing. We intern him. We put him in detention and keep him there for a year. So now, who are the nursing case managers? Nursing case management is the Army employs roughly, I believe it. Let me just look. Yeah, 5,000. Approximately 5,000 nurses. Many of them are currently working as nurse case managers within many of the Army medical centers across the United States. Nursing case management is also a certification that is endorsed. It's one of the advanced practices that is endorsed by the Army. It's also one of the classes they do offer, advanced practices, that is. How many will we need? How many nurse case managers will we need? How many more, and this is tough, how many more people, how many more soldiers do we need to bring into theater? Well, if you look, there are 19,000 detainees at Camp Bucca, our largest. So if we're looking at populations of 75 to 100 detainees per nurse case manager, you're looking at 35 for Camp Bucca. You can look at, the estimates would say that there's almost 1,500 diabetic patients and 1,700 who have cardiovascular disease. Add those two together, divide by 100, and you're looking at 35 nurse case managers at Camp Bucca. Camp Cropper only has 4,000 detainees, so their estimates are about 310 diabetic, 360 cardiovascular disease, and 50 acute. So you'd be looking at 8 at Camp Cropper. Now, Camp Balad is the smallest, but often it has the most sick folks, because if we have to move anybody, we're using Balad as the medevac point. So, and they have 2,000 detainees. We estimate that there's 155 diabetic, 180 with cardiovascular disease, and 25 acute. So when we look at accountability, there we go. When we talk about accountability, oops, pardon me, we'll go back one slide. Well, I'm looking at to improving the medical accountability piece. You need to look at, there we go, there's some motion. See how that turned yellow, that turned red. You can almost establish a geographic location for these nursing case managers. To improve that medical accountability piece, we propose that the nurse case managers are assigned to a particular geographic location as demonstrated by the boxes. Within that location, certain detainees will meet criteria to fall under the nursing case management umbrella. We talked about them. They're diabetic, they're cardiovascular. We're looking at the people the detainees who have an acute illness or something that would need further treatment or follow-up with the medical providers. So what happens is when detainees are transferred from compound, say they're down here in compound 10, MPs are saying, well, we saw a fight between a Sunni and a Shiite. We need to move them out. We're going to move them up to compound 6. So what happens is we're proposing nurse case managers that they're going to have accountability. They're going to know these detainees because they'll visit with them on a daily basis, or at least a good percentage of them. They're going to come in, they're going to look at the transfer log, and they'll say, Farid was one of mine.